All right, brothers, welcome, welcome. I do not want to waste any time with this one. But for some context, if you do not already know, my name is Joey, and I just competed in my first natural bodybuilding competition 7 days ago now, right? Today is the 7 day ago mark. And my progress was pretty crazy. I ended up placing third in the natural competition, but the competition was also really crazy. The guy who won was already pro in another division. So if you take a look here, this is the progress I made. I honestly surprised myself considering in this picture on the left, I had been lifting for about 5 to 6 years. And, after you get those newbie gains, after you've been lifting for a while, year by year, the progress comes slower. But in just 6 months, already having some muscular maturity, I was able to put on this much more muscular maturity. And the crazy part is that same weight in both, right? Same exact weight. I believe maybe I was 179 point something in here, 180 here. And I couldn't really understand how I was the same weight in both of these, right? If you look, I look almost leaner and bigger. And that is what I'm going to break down here. So the reason I look so much bigger, even though I'm the same body weight, is that my body fat percentage is lower, right? So in this one, estimate probably 11 to 12 body fat percentage. This one, 7 to 8. When you have lower body fat, your muscles look so much more defined, so much more full, and you just look like you have more muscular maturity, right? Which is a big factor in this. That's the second thing, is muscular maturity. When your muscles become mature, and when I say mature, I mean more dense, they just become tighter, thicker, stronger, versus these are a lot softer, right? Now, a big aspect here too, which this might even be the biggest one, is posing. See my hamstring there, right? Putting that much mass purely on legs, if there was no difference in posing, is absurd for 6 months. But the way I pose here is actually my hamstring is pushed up against my back leg, pushing that hamstring out. On this one, I had no idea that's actually what people do, but on this one I did. So that gave me more size, but I did really focus on my posterior chain throughout this prep as well. Now, biceps as well. Really well. I'm doing a really good job pushing that inner bicep against the wall right here. Good job pushing the chest out. I'm not leaning down. I'm showing both shoulders very well. Still, though, I'm just a lot bigger in this one, right? Last thing is that this is an iPhone. This is a professional camera, so it's going to be a little higher quality. The shadows are going to be better, but the pump and the lighting is the same. As you can see, same exact lighting room, same angle, and same lighting. So that's why I look so much bigger, even though I'm the same weight. How I was able to do this was a muscle recomp. And I'm going to get into each aspect, including diet, training, recovery, and mindset. But for the first 6 weeks, I was bulking up, right? And as you can see here, I gained about 1.5 pounds on average each week. And when I was at my heaviest, I didn't look that good. I looked a lot more full. I looked a lot stronger, but not like bodybuilding, right? This is by far my best look. Now, once we got to here, the goal was to keep all the muscle we built from week 6 and just shed all the fat down to week 16, right? And that is pretty much what we did perfectly, right? That, and when I say we, by the way, I had a coach. I'm gonna talk about him a little bit later, but what this is here is basically a perfect mini bulk and mini cut. The numbers look great on paper, right? But you can have the numbers so you gain the weight, and then when you cut down, you end up losing a lot of muscle too. What I did perfectly is I maintained all of that muscle, right? So without further ado, let's get into how I actually did this. Now, I'm going to be giving this from a lifestyle perspective, right? I know a lot of you guys may be training for a bodybuilding competition, maybe not. I'm not going to get into posing that much. I'm just going to get into how you can implement this into your own life and what I did exactly. So first things first, if you guys don't know, I'm a vegan, right? I'm 100% vegan. I've been a vegan for about almost a year now, almost exactly a year now. And I feel the best I've ever felt, right? I did a Muay Thai competition, had great cardio. This is the best I've ever looked in my life. And I pretty much have no disadvantage by being vegan. So when people find out I'm vegan, they're like, bro, that's so impressive. You did this. You did that as a vegan. I'm like, thank you. But mentally, I tell myself, it's not that much more impressive if I was eating meat, because the meals end up pretty much being the same. I just replace the protein source, which is just as good at building muscle, right? So first, I'll break down why I went vegan. My brother went vegan about a month before me, so a year, 13 months ago, and I thought he was crazy. I thought he was nuts when he went vegan. Me and him both dabble in carnivore. We were heavy animal based. That's what we live by. And both of us saw vegans as weak, like idiots, to put it bluntly, right? He told me that. I was like, no way. My brother went crazy. He's in psychosis or something. I didn't actually think he was in psychosis, but I thought it was just a phase, right? And then I'm arguing with him about the health benefits, like how you can't be healthy as a vegan, you can't build muscle as a vegan. And with the internet nowadays, you can check everything. And so everything I said pretty much was incorrect, right? Was fact checked by him, proving me wrong. I was like, all right, even though you maybe can be healthy as a vegan, it's still healthier to eat meat, right? You need the nutrients, everything. How do you get your creatine? How do you get all that, etc.? And so, without going too much deep with him, he recommended me this documentary right here called Game Changers. This is pretty popular on Netflix. Some of y'all might have seen it. So this documentary actually follows along elite vegan athletes, which there are a lot of. One of which that really stuck out to me was a male U.S. powerlifter. And I don't know if I get these stats right, but I think it was 2016 was the only male powerlifter to go to the Olympics. And that shows that the most powerful man, explosive man, was vegan. And that right there instantly blew my mind. In addition, you have strongmen, you have marathon runners, you have a bunch of Olympians who are vegan, right? And so my belief system started to crack here. In addition, they did a lot of other studies with people's cholesterol being lower. They hit it from many different aspects. By the end of it, you're kind of like, I really want to try this plant-based diet. So I was motivated here, right? But I didn't know about, the overall health, so I wasn't really sold. Watch this one, which is Secrets of the Blue Zone. This guy goes to a bunch of different blue zones, which are pretty much areas that have much longer lifespans and longevity than the average areas, right? And the main diets that these people have were vegan plant-based. The Blue Zone diet, which is called, is 95% plus plant-based. If there's animal products, some eggs, some cultured yogurt, rarely any meat, right? And that is a huge indicator for me. That's like one of the best study groups you can take is people going throughout their entire lives, groups of people all living to a certain age and eating a similar diet, right? And so now I kind of realize that, okay, the vegan diet is kind of superior, right? It's one of the best, if not the best diets for health and athletic performance. But of course, you have the soy problem, right? Does soy increase estrogen? Answer is no. Quick research on that completely disproved that. If anything, it balances estrogen, meaning if it's too high, it brings it down, too low, brings it up. What really hits estrogen is hormone-filled, stressed out mother calves milk. That hits estrogen about 1,000 times stronger than soy. And so continuing, my beliefs started shattering. I was like, okay, I can be healthy as a vegan. Then he introduced me to these two. Now, these do hit it from the ethical aspect. This is an inside look about what happens at factory farms. Absolutely brutal. It's an absolute atrocity. What happens in factory farms. These animals are tortured, abused. Mother cows have their babies taken away from them immediately so humans can drink their milk. It was absolutely brutal to watch, right? And after realizing that I didn't need to eat meat, seeing that I was supporting something like this when I didn't have to, pretty much because of taste, that was the only reason I needed to do it. It was instantly I was like, there's no way I'm ever eating meat again. Like my brain just completely reshifted. And this was an environmental one, which is also extremely powerful, but this one is the one that really got me. And a year later, one of the best decisions I made for my life, for my moral conscience, for my health, and I'm never gonna go back. I feel better than ever. I think about a dead animal on my plate, and it just does not entice me at all. And so this is the way personally, right? Now, you can still get these gains without being vegan. That is why I am vegan, though, which I wanted to explain because it is pretty taboo. Now, the actual diet. So I had pretty much 2 meals I ate the entire prep, right? I had 4 meals a day, but 2 of the meals ended up being usually the same. One of which was this meal right here. So good. And I put what was actually in it right here. So we have blueberries, cream of rice, protein oats, protein powder, and almond butter. Now, these portions were for the day. So this is not one meal. This is actually 2 meals. So it would be 100 grams of blueberries, 300 grams of cream of rice, 50 grams of protein oats, 2 scoops of fuel, and 1 tablespoon of almond butter, right? Then the other meal was rice, veggies, wheat gluten, which is pure protein, nutritional yeast, and olive oil. And again, cut these in half, and that was 1 meal. And I just had these this twice a day, and it ended up being about this for the baseline diet. Now, when I got into cutting, I cut a lot of these out. I pretty much, one of the meals, I completely cut out the oats. One of the meals, I completely cut out the rice. But these were the macros, right? So we got 3,000 calories consumed, about 190 grams of protein, 370 grams of carbs, 80 grams of fat. Now, I want to show you guys about the nutrients because I know this is a big concern of how do you get all your nutrients. This is my diet. I'm putting everything I ate, and this is the nutrient. I get everything in abundance, right? Vitamin D is a little low, but I take a multivitamin anyway, which covers this times 10. Absolutely everything is covered. This is the main one right here, though, when it comes to bodybuilding, which is the amino acid profile. Now, this is something you actually have to think about whether you're a meat eater or a vegan. This is what muscles are made out of, amino acids, and every protein has a chain of amino acids. Now, the ones that are highlighted here are the essential amino acids plus 1 or 2. Essential amino acids pretty much means what your body doesn't create on its own, right? So there's 9 essential amino acids, and those you need to get from food. Now, some proteins are complete, some aren't. Now, I highly suggest whatever diet you are eating, you plug into this to see if you are getting all of the essential amino acids, right? And so I did that here, and you will see that I'm getting all the essential amino acids times 3, 4, sometimes 6, right? So completely covered on there, plus all the protein I'm getting. And so as you guys can see, I'm not that impressive, right? Simple, basic diet. I'm getting all my nutrients, all my protein, pretty much zero disadvantage versus an animal-based diet. If anything, I think being vegan is an advantage. Now, how did I actually go about ensuring I was hitting all of these and making the right rate progress, keeping the muscle, etc.? I did that personally by having the same meals every day, right? Which I like a lot better than tracking, right? I am a coach, and so I do work with a lot of clients. Some people, they like eating the same meals other days. Some people like tracking. Personally, I find eating the same meals every day, as long as you enjoy them, it just makes things so smooth, right? Your body starts being prepared for the food. Digestion is great. Your body's able to metabolize it great. You get really good at cooking them. It just takes all the brain power out of it. And so this would probably take me 10 minutes to make. This is a $5 meal right here. And this would also probably take me 10 minutes to make. This is a $2.15 meal right there, right? So $7.50 for both of these that have these twice a day, $15. That's it, right? And so you get into eating out a little bit, which I didn't do much on prep. That's a little different. That's where, you know, you can have a cheat day here and there. It's not going to hugely negatively affect your physique. But personally, to ensure you get these results, it's a lot easier if you're eating the same foods every day. And just pick something you like. And last thing I want to cover here on diet is going to be nutrient timing, specifically before and after a workout. Now, there's a lot of nuance that goes into this, but I'm going to simplify this, all you need to know. You want to have a good amount of carbs, a heavy carb meal, about an hour to 2 hours before your workout, right? Both of these are perfect. Both of these have a lot of carbs in them, so it's going to be great. In addition, after your workout, you want to refill the glycogen so the protein and amino acids can specifically go into repairing the muscle instead of being wasted by refueling glycogen stores. So you want that carb to go refuel glycogen so the protein can go do its work, right? Simple as that. All right, so that pretty much covers it in diet. Let's get into some more fun stuff here. We got training. So this is really where the magic happened, right? Being consistent on diet was huge, but my training over the past 6 months was extremely locked in, all right? I'll get into the style of my training here. So I went to failure pretty much every single time because that's what builds the most muscle, right? Some people say 1 rep in reserve. Some people say failure. At the end of the day, a lot of people's one rep in reserve is 5 to 6 reps in reserve. A lot of people's failure is still 1 to 2 reps in reserve. So I would just push myself to failure to get every single time to get the most tension, most adaptation. And I'll show you what looks like right here. This is probably one of the hardest workouts to go to failure in. Back squat's going to be harder than this. But as you can see here, most people would stop far beyond this point, right? In the past, I would have stopped there. I've been like, okay, I'm cooked. I probably don't have another one. But throughout training this way and realizing what I'm really capable of, just going until I couldn't anymore, I reached a lot higher limits, meaning I got a lot more muscle stimulus, right? And so right here, I was like 50-50. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, but it's okay, right? Re-rack it. We're good. And that is what allowed me to get legs like this. So I will 100% always preach that you want to push yourself as hard as possible, as close to failure as possible, right? As long as you're giving yourself enough rest in between sets and in between workouts. Now, my workouts were long because I was giving myself a lot of rest, right? I couldn't just do that set and then go right into another set of squat. I would probably take 2 to 3, maybe 4 minutes, sometimes even 5 on a heavy compound lift like that. So my workouts ended up being closer to an hour and a half versus when I was mainly focused on MMA, they were like 45 minutes. I was doing HIIT hard, going boom, 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 boom. Right? This is going to be more optimal for muscle growth just because you're able to give the most output. If you're cutting yourself short on rest every set, your body is not going to be capable of getting as much tension it could if it was fully recovered, right? And so how I looked at this is I would just say, when is my heart rate at a point where I feel like I can have max output the next set, right? Last but not least, I was training like a bodybuilder, meaning tension over weight. The only thing I was focused on was tension, right? Meaning before this prep, I was probably picking up heavier dumbbells than I was when I was my biggest, right? I was lifting heavier dumbbells here than here, right? Not meaning now I could have lifted heavier dumbbells here, but the goal was tension, right? And so weight is a factor here, but mind-muscle connection is king. And so instead of saying picking up 40-pound dumbbells or 35s, I would pick up 30s or 25s and go slow and controlled, very slow on the eccentric because that's where half the muscle is built, and I would take my ego out of it, right? I stopped focusing on how many reps can I do throwing up the weight for 6 reps. I would go slow on bench press and slow on the weight up to feel every striation, right? And so that was kind of the difference in the style. If you really want to get into actually how to lift for optimizing growth, I have a full video on that, pure value, just about like 15 minutes, just going straight into everything you need to know. So go watch that if you want to get educated there. Now, another thing that was different that I never did before was cardio, right? I would do cardio about 4 to 5 times per week. I would do it fasted, 500 to 700 calories, 45 to 60 minutes on incline or Stairmaster. Now, reason I did this is because to burn fat, right? If you are fasted, which I would do it right in the morning, first thing, I would try to get there at 6 a.m., which I was pretty consistent with. I would be in zone 2 cardio, meaning I would not be tapping too much into my muscle or my glycogen because I didn't even have a lot of glycogen. I would just be tapping into the fat. So I'd be burning a lot of ketones as energy, which is fat. This is an OP way to lose weight. Now, that being said, 40 to 60 minutes, 4 to 5 times a week, that is a commitment, right? Depending on how much you care about losing fat depends on how much you're going to give to this. In addition, I went twice per day, and that's a big commitment for a lot of people too. What you could do is instead of doing it in the morning and then going and working out later when you're carbed up, is you carb up, go work out, and then after the workout, your glycogen is depleted, so you are going to burn fat, and that's zone 2 cardio, right? Last aspect of this I really like is just the mental aspect. Great way to start the day. It's tough, right? Especially you'll have waves on that Stairmaster, that incline walk where you're like, I want to stop, but you just don't, because you set a commitment to yourself. And I would say before you step on the Stairmaster or the incline, have a set goal for yourself. If you don't have a set goal for yourself, you're going to tap out way before you should, or you could. And so for me, I'd have my set calorie goal and I just wouldn't stop until I hit that. And so that's a huge factor in what allowed me to go from here to here with keeping all of my muscle, because I was able to just burn the fat right here. Now, I know everyone loves hearing about this. What is the split? I love this split, right? It was a little new for me because I hadn't really given myself an arm and delt day. I was just usually doing push-pull legs for most of my life, but I really like the arm and delt day because it grew your arms, right? That's what having an arm day will do. So the whole argument is, should you have an arm day or should it just be push-pull legs? Is what do you want to emphasize? Do you want to emphasize back and chest more, or do you want to emphasize arms more? If you want to emphasize arms more, have a separate arm day. That being said, if I have 4 different workouts, right? If I'm not hitting pull for another 7 days, that means I need to go till failure on pull. I need to absolutely destroy my muscle so it uses all these 7 days to recover, and then by this day, I'm fresh again. And so here's a split. I had push, legs, pull, push 1, arm delts, legs, push 2, pull 2, legs 2, arms delts 2. Now, the reason I had 2 separate weeks is, number one, if you have 2 separate workouts, example, pull 1 and pull 2, you could target different things, right? So this leg day, maybe I'd be more focused on abduction and hamstrings and maybe some calves. And the other one, I'd be focused on quads and adduction, etc., right? So I'm going to always stick with having 2 separate weeks. And especially if you're more than a year into lifting, I would recommend that as well. That being said, having 2 leg days a week is kind of intense, and you're going to be risking not having full recovery if you're hitting the legs hard, which you should be doing. What was perfect for me is having 1.5 leg days every 2 weeks. This allowed me to get full recovery, but also not be in a state where my legs were ready for a workout, but I didn't have them for another 2 days, right? And so same thing with push B here. And you could see, guys, you could look here. I don't have a back picture here. My back grew a lot, but the things that I hit twice a week or 1.5 times every 2 weeks were legs and chest. And look what grew most, right? Legs and chest. And then arms grew a lot too. My back did grow a lot, but specifically the biggest thing I'd say is legs and chest. So whatever you're lacking right now, if you feel like everything needs improvement, nothing needs more improvement specifically than anything else, maybe stick with push-pull legs. But you say, hey, I want to get my arms up. Throw in an arm day. Hey, I want to get my chest up. Have 3 pull days every 2 weeks. For me, my back was already developed, so I only need 2 pull days. And say, hey, I need to improve my legs. Have 3 leg days every 2 weeks. If your back is lacking, I would have had 3 pull days every 2 weeks, right? So I really like the split. I'm going to stick with it. A lot of my guys are on the same thing. If you're a newbie, though, push-pull legs, upper, lower is fine, right? Getting into the next aspect, we have recovery. So I put supplements in this one as well, even though some of these supplements weren't for recovery, they were for workouts. Overall, most of these are for recovery, right? We'll go ahead and get into supplements. So supplements, you have EAAs, creatine. This is an intra-workout, just pure carbs, dextrose, multivitamin, omega-3, electrolytes, and I liked a non-stim pre-workout because I didn't really feel like I needed energy in the gym. I like having my caffeine more if I need brain power for work. But with each one of these, EAAs, naked creatine, and the electrolytes I would have with my fasted cardio. Specifically, I want to touch on this one. Now, what EAAs are, I talked a little bit about these earlier, essential amino acids. So these are the amino acids you do not produce naturally, right? You need to be ingesting them from an outside source, whether that's food or something like this. Reason I would do this in the morning with my cardio is because this would help preserve all the muscle without adding any extra calories, right? So this is a phenomenal tool for cutting. When your calories are lower, you're not sure if you're getting all the essential amino acids you need, or you're working out fasted. This is a non-negotiable, which is honestly not talked about a lot in the fitness industry. Which is talked about a lot is creatine, great supplement just for building muscle. Recommend everyone does it. Doesn't really break the bank. Gives you the best natural boost you're going to get out of a supplement. And so take that. I take 10 milligrams a day because I am on the heavier side. If you're below 180, you could go closer to 5 or 7. If you're above 180, I'd go 10. Super carbs. I had this in the first half of my training here. I cut this out when I started my cut because it was just extra carbs. But what this does is it gives you a boost during your workout, right? What your body prefers to use during a workout is carbohydrates. And if you give yourself some instant carbohydrates halfway through a leg day when you already depleted this meal, right? It's going to allow your body to have much more output, which means more tension, which means more muscle growth, right? Now, in addition, multivitamin, this is a non-negotiable. Everyone should be taking a multivitamin. I really like Gorilla Minds. I've looked at a lot of multivitamins and just the ratios and the things they have in here are perfect. They even have some boron in here, which is great for testosterone boosting properties. Addition, omega-3s. Vegan, when it says vegan omega-3 algae oil, this is actually better than fish oil. When it says vegan omega-3 algae oil, funny thing is, this is like the OG omega-3. The reason fish have omega-3 is because they eat this, right? So you're just skipping the middleman and going straight to the original source, which is the algae oil. And then we have electrolytes, simple. You know, I take 1 scoop of this. This has got the potassium, magnesium, and sodium, which is really good for a cut, especially when you're carb depleted. Keep all your organings function great, keep you hydrated. I really like this. This makes my pumps better, makes you a little bit stronger. And like I said, I already feel stimulated enough by the workout. And so that is Gorilla Mode Nitric. I like the orange flavor the best out of all I've tried. So for supplements, which of these you need, right? I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick tier list. For S tier, everyone should be taking boom, boom, and boom. I think that those are S tier. Those are just gonna, non-negotiable benefit you. A tier, especially if you're on a cut, this is A tier, right? Maybe even S tier if you're on a cut. This is optional. If you're on a bulk, I really like these. This is probably B tier, A tier. This also A tier. This B to A tier, right? So if you can afford them, take them all. They're gonna help. If you care about your physique, care about your performance, and all of these are the brands I like too. So. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take the extra step and throw all the links in the description for you guys. I am not affiliated because I have 200 subscribers, but I would be if any of these brands offered because they're all great. Now, next aspect is going to be rest. So for this one, this is encompassing sleep, right? I put here consistency over quantity. Quantity is very important, but the reason I want to emphasize this is because this is less emphasized than this, when in reality, this is usually more important. Studies have found that if you get 6 hours of consistent sleep versus 8 hours of inconsistent, you're off by 2 hours every single day, sleep, this is going to beat it, right? So you're literally buying yourself back time and recovery by just getting to bed on a consistent time. Now, that being said, ideally, you get 8 hours of sleep, go to bed, go to sleep at the same time. This was kind of a struggle for me. I have a very entrepreneurial driven mind, and I absolutely love my business, love coaching, love my clients, love content. And so I had a hard time getting off the computer, stopping everything when I was, in flow state, and I get in flow state at night. But I figured out ways to combat that, and I got a lot more sleep than before this competition because I had a reason to, right? I had more of a motive to. In addition, 10 minutes daily stretching. I did this right before bed. Just look up a simple stretch routine, right? You want to at least have one stretch for every area of the lower body specifically, right? You want to, touch your toes, do a butterfly, do a runner's lunge, do pigeon pose, child's pose. I like to do some spinal twists. That really helps. And then if your shoulders are tight too, I like grabbing a resistance band, going overhead, stretching like that, right? Do each of those for 1 to 2 minutes and you're good. And that's such a high ROI, guys. Please just do 10 minutes daily. That's not only going to help with gain, just overall quality of life, and you're going to prevent a lot of problems, a lot of injuries coming at you in the future. Last thing is limit caffeine and stims. I also, like I said, entrepreneurial mind, I love grinding. I love stimulants. I love nicotine. I love caffeine. I love things that make me focus. But when you are bodybuilding, you want to be as parasympathetic, meaning in a non-fight or flight state when you are outside of the gym. That means that you want to stay away from these as much as possible, or limit them as much as possible, right? I still had probably a cup of coffee or two daily, a nicotine pouch here and there, but I limited a lot more than I used to do because I needed to recover, right? And funny thing is, last thing I want to mention, I took all these things before I was vegan too, right? And so I literally changed nothing about my supplements, or really my diet. I just replaced ground beef or chicken with wheat gluten, and I replaced whey with pea protein. That's it. All right, this is the fun part now. So we have the mindsets. This is what is necessary for getting that physique and that physique that quickly, that transformation, right? It's going to be consistency. If you are having cheat meals every day, if you are going to the gym here and there, you falling off, you're not as disciplined on going to failure every set, you're just not going to be able to achieve a physique like this. or a transformation like this, right? It's just necessary that you are doing these things consistently. When I say consistently, I mean, maybe a cheat meal a week, right? Or maybe, once a month you have some reason why you miss a workout, but you just put it on the next day. But you can't have back-to-back missed workouts. You can't have a off week, right? If you want these results. And the nice thing is that it doesn't eat into quality of life. Consistency is satisfying, right? And we all have an hour of the day to go to the gym, and we're all eating food anyways. Just put the good food in your body instead of the bad food. And the reason I was able to be so consistent as well is because I had a strong why. My why was this bodybuilding competition, right? Before, physique was just, the benefit of, attraction for women, respect for men, feeling good about myself, liking what I see in the mirror, having more confidence, having more energy, right? That's all important, but it was also like I was just going through the motions. I was just maintaining. You throw in the bodybuilding competition, and now I have much more purpose for all of my sets, right? I have every single set I'm thinking, oh, if I don't push till failure, that, I'm not going to feel satisfied when I step on stage. And if I lose, I'm going to know it's because of that, right? And so I had a strong why. People, if you are out of shape, right? If you are fat or you are overly skinny, that is your why, right? You have a lot of power there. If you are unsatisfied with your physique, then that is your why. You should think about that often. Don't be like, oh no, I want to be self-accepting, right? No, be like, I'm pissed, I don't have the physique I want, and put that fuel into consistency. If you're dissatisfied enough with not being in shape, that dissatisfaction will outweigh the desire to eat food, right? And so for me, the desire to eat food or the desire to win the bodybuilding competition and bring my best physique way outweighed the pleasure of food. I would say get clear on how much better your life is going to be when you're in shape, how much you hate not having a physique you want, not having the health you want, and think about it often, right? Because that will fuel you, and that will get you fast progress and ensure consistency here. Another little tool I use is that non-negotiables. Non-negotiable means non-negotiable. I cannot negotiate my way out of things. If I make things negotiable mentally, I ate good yesterday, I can, cheat a little bit today, or I had a good week last week, I can miss this workout. If it's an option, it becomes an option. If it's not an option to miss, to fall off, to not stay on plan, you won't fall off. It's that simple, right? And so you have to ingrain it into your psyche, into the human being you are, like part of your identity, that these things are not negotiable. And when they become negotiable is when you fall off. Non-negotiables are huge. I really like to just have a daily tracker of all my non-negotiables, check them off at the end of the day. That makes it so I have the feeling that I'm moving forward, hitting my goals every day. Huge boost of confidence, clarity. You need a list of non-negotiables. I give this to all my guys, and they absolutely love it. When I was, I have two coaches right now, one for business and one for bodybuilding, and both have separate non-negotiable lists on there. They allow me to move forward at rapid pace, hit my goals every single day. Last but not least, a coach. This was absolutely massive for me. So I actually was not planning on having a coach when I started this. I didn't think I need one. I've been lifting for a while. I've been personal training for a while. I know everything there is about getting in shape. What I didn't know is prep. I didn't know anything about the sport of bodybuilding. I didn't know how to pose. I didn't know how to peak. I didn't know carb cycling and those things. And so I ended up getting a coach. And not only did he help me with all of those things, he helped me with this, right? Accountability. I don't want to be showing up to check-ins, missing meals, missing workouts, him knowing that I fell off, right? I respect my coach. There is a sense of he's looking over my shoulder, right? In addition, you have that certainty aspect where I takes the mental work out of it. I know that if I just do what he puts on the plan, I'm going to get my results, right? He's gotten other people's results. He's gotten himself results. And so that allows you to move forward without overthinking. Last thing is commitment, right? Of course, there's a financial and a social commitment when you get a coach. And that is just another step of a why. This is a huge way you can replicate having a strong why. If you invest in a coach, you are making a commitment to yourself that you are going to achieve these goals. I'm gonna go ahead and tag my guy Sam in the description too. I forgot to put his tag right here, but he's awesome. If you're thinking about bodybuilding, hit him up. I'm not a bodybuilding coach. I teach men how to get the physique they want, mindset they want, dating life they want, and confidence they want, right? The same things that work for me and work for all of my clients, right? So if you're serious about bodybuilding, hit up my boy right here. If you're serious about becoming the best version of yourself in all those areas I stated, hit me up. There's a link to book a call in the description. With that being said, guys, this experience was absolutely insane. My biggest message to you guys is going to be, if you are thinking about doing something like this, or even if you haven't been, but now you're considering it, right? Make the jump. I've committed to so many different things in the past 3 years, and every time I commit to something, my life absolutely changes. Whether that was MMA, just starting walking into a gym, or committing to an MMA competition, or starting a business, dropping out of school, doing this. Every single time you are forced to push outside of your comfort zone and you have a set goal, you are going to evolve. And so it just takes the first step. I actually just committed to my next bodybuilding competition. I want to get that pro card. So that's in about 5 months from now. I really hope you guys got some value from this. I'm going to pin some other videos in the description that will help you guys out a lot. But yeah, until next time, brothers, peace.